We are going to take a look at this UFO video that was recorded about 19 years ago, and it was uploaded to YouTube about 15 years ago. Now, the major importance of this video has to do with the symbol that is on this UFO. This symbol is used by a group of off-world visitors that come from a star system about 14 light years away. They call their planet Ummo. On this website, you can download the original video and watch a stabilized sequence of the UFO rotating right before it disappears. So let's take a look at the slow motion stabilized sequence of the UFO rotating. Let's watch it again, but at normal speed.
It's a
When you look at the original, the UFO either disappears or the camera itself loses focus. If it was the camera losing focus, I would expect the witness in the background to say, "No, it's still there," rather than, "No, it's over here."
Where'd it go? Disappeared.
Now let's focus on the UFO's symbol. Let's step through the original video frame by frame, and you can see the counter down here. And right here on this frame is the best view of the symbol that we have, and you can kind of also see it on this frame. So at 20 seconds into the video is where you will find the best frame to just take a simple screenshot. And then you can just open it up in a photo viewer and zoom in on it to see if you can get any better look at the symbol. You can also use a photo editor to modify the colors and the contrast to try to bring out a little bit more of the symbol. So if this helps you to confirm that indeed this symbol is on this UFO, then it unlocks a ton, and I mean a ton, of UFO information for you. Now, if you need more clarity, realize that this video is improperly encoded compared to what the video camera's capability is. If this tape still exists, if Mark still has this mini DV tape, it can be encoded at 720 by 480 and 30 frames per second. That could give enough resolution to either completely confirm or deny the symbol on this UFO. Okay, so who are these people from Ummo? First, let's take a look at Elena's book. The people of Ummo are working actively with the Galactic Federation on a scientific program aiming to assist the development of Terran sciences. Terran meaning Earth. They do this by contacting civilians, giving them detailed technical information on different technologies and theories in order to expand scientific knowledge. And here you can pause and read the message that they gave to us in 1973. They had been on the planet since about 1950, and this was the year where we had the escalation of the Arab-Israeli Yom Kippur War. They realized that the Israelis already had nukes, and Russia was sending over nukes, so they packed their shit up and got off the planet. They knew how close we were to blowing ourselves up yet again. This is an example of one of their documents from 1967 that goes into detail about their idea of cosmology. We would consider this theoretical physics, but obviously to them it's not theory, since they're able to use this to travel through interstellar space. Obviously, this was a time before word processing or drawing programs on the computer, so you can see the detail and the time that they spent hand drawing all of this stuff using colored pencils to try to teach us what they can teach us. And what I mean by that is that we are really, really far behind. But they've tried to give us as much guidance as possible based upon our point in our own scientific evolution. Let me show you where you can get to these documents so you can read them yourself. You may have already noticed that this document is in Spanish and the other main language is French. And some of these documents have been translated to English, but a lot of times you have to rely on a translator program to do it for you. There are two main websites that maintain the Ummo documents. One is Ummo Sciences, and it's in French, so if you use Google Chrome, you can go ahead and use this feature to translate it to English. There is also a Spanish website called Ummo Ciencias. On both of these websites, you'll find various translations of the Ummo documents and different formats like HTML or PDF. So a very simple way to get started is to just click on the HTML versions, and then Google Chrome will go ahead and translate it into your native language. So here's how I got started. I don't remember exactly how I stumbled upon all this information, but at first I thought it was just all bullshit. But I decided to continue on and read it as if it was science fiction. So I started reading about how they discovered Earth and when they sent their first reconnaissance mission to our solar system. There's a lot of interesting detail in here, like when they first observed humans on the ground. Like right here, you cannot imagine the astonishment caused by something that is familiar to you, the small cylinders in the mouths of some humans. The spectral analysis of the expelled gases showed a strong dose of carbon dioxide, tar, and hydrocarbons. We then imagined that the physiological organisms of the terrestrials could not perhaps live in an atmosphere of oxygen and nitrogen free of such gases. So they needed to add it to the circulating air to make it more breathable. So that's just one example. And you can read another story about when they actually first stepped foot on Earth. Now, this information started to get a lot more real to me when I started reading their papers on physics. Almost all of our scientists will consider these Ummo writings as being pseudoscience. But the irony is that our scientists are the ones that are practicing pseudoscience. Before you can evaluate any kind of UFO science, you need to fix the incorrect ideas such as a light particle through empty space or time is relative for everyone without any concept of preferred frame of reference. We have to come to the realization that our ill-defined particle theories are just wrong. We have accepted these theories without any experimental evidence. You can't test for a probability wave. You cannot test for a quantum state in a superposition. But yet, we have accepted these as science. So our difficulty in moving forward in electrical science, or UFO science, does not have to do with a new math equation or a higher energy supercollider. It's more of a psychological problem in recognizing that we've made a lot of mistakes. And anyone with a basic high school education can understand the mistakes that we have made. Okay, let's finish up by looking at 3 different Ummo UFO landings. Each of these have physical evidence and multiple witnesses. The first 2 landings we'll look at were both in Spain, one in 1966 in Aluche, and another in 1967 in a suburb called San Jose de Valderas. There was documentation of the landing indentations caused by the UFO. And here is a close-up of one of the landing gear impressions into the ground. They also left behind high-quality material at these landing sites. It's not 100% proof of extraterrestrial materials. What it shows is that whoever made these really knows what they're doing. This UFO picture is of the 1967 landing, and there are several different photographs from that landing event. I don't know how to prove that these photographs are real, but the debunks of these photographs are pretty bad. For example, the very scratched up negative for one of these photos, it is said that this is a monofilament line that holds up the fake model UFO. And supposedly this is the monofilament line on the photograph. And then these two photos would be an example of someone holding up like a fishing pole with the monofilament line attached to this pie plate type of UFO model. These photos have been analyzed by several different sources over many years. These positive image films and the negatives have not been hidden away from researchers. And here's another view of the pictures that were taken on the 1967 photo shoot. And here's a non-scratched up version of a negative, and I don't see any indication of a monofilament line. This is probably the most popular picture that you will see of that 1967 photo shoot, and then this is cleaned up using some new technology of AI. So if we take the creativity of the pie plate model, monofilament line, and fishing pole, then we can contrast that with the description of the Ummo spaceships. They basically wrote a book that detailed all aspects of their spaceships. We have the internal cabin, the external parts of the spaceship, and a very detailed description of the micro machines in the skin of the UFO. It's full of sensors that will repair themselves and infrastructure to self-heal the skin of the UFO. It seems like a bit of an overkill to do all of these detailed drawings and all of this documentation just to supplement a set of pictures of pie plates. The last Ummo landing that we're going to talk about was in 1989, and it was in Voronezh, Russia. The UFO landed inside this park in the middle of the city. And the story is quite fantastic. The Roswell newspaper ran the full article here that you can pause and read. There were multiple witnesses to this landing, and several of the kids that were in the park at the time drew pictures of what they saw. These are the physical marks left behind by the landing gear of the UFO. And there were many scientific researchers that were able to study the landing site. So here's the crazy part. 9-foot-tall, three-eyed aliens got out of the UFO and walked around the park. They also brought a walking robot that had no head. There were multiple kids that drew these kind of pictures, and there were adult witnesses. So what in the heck was this all about? I mean, what is the point of Ummo to roll into this park with their fancy robots and tasers? It makes no sense. So from an Ummo perspective, they were sort of on a rescue mission. 2 of their team members were stopped by a routine check by the local police, and they had to escape. So what you have here is a tall person that is dressed in one of their protective spacesuits. This robot is a mobile trash incinerator. Now, most likely, the 2 members that were getting picked up had to discard their civilian clothes and get suited up to be taken away. So the 9-foot, 3-eyed alien and the headless walking robot just added to the unbelievability of this entire incident. There were no pictures of that specific incident, but a little later on, I think in November, someone did capture this picture in Voronezh. Now, I have no idea if this is an actual Ummo spherical craft or not, but the pictures have been analyzed. It is an interesting addition to the story, at least. And it's very interesting to know that the people of Ummo are 94% similar to us. When most people think of aliens from another planet, they usually think about a gray alien like Skinny Bob here, without his sunglasses on. These are the only pictures that I know of that give us an idea of what the people of Ummo look like. But now you know where you can go get more information about these particular visitors that are here trying to help us. This is just a basic introduction to a very big story. Thanks for watching.